nothing for those years. He played football in Canada. He played, arena league football, minor league football. So he's been playing. Injuries are simply starting to happen. You saw it happen with Keenan Lewis. And I'm not saying that he's worth getting rid of or anything. He is a great corner when he is healthy. Keep him on the roster. Do not get rid of Delvin Breaux. However, it is a position of need because you don't have a young talent that you can expect to start 16 games. We haven't had a corner start 16 games in multiple years now. It's something that we have to address, as you're saying. And I'm not saying Breaux is going to just fall off the face of the earth because he's 28 or 29 years old. I'm simply saying there is a reason that the trend is a certain age group, why that certain age group is so good in the NFL and why they're successful. And that's why you have to, as a team, target that, knowing that you can't rely on bringing in Champ Bailey, even if he is a Hall of Fame caliber player. Some of those guys simply can't have that one last tank in the gas type year. They just don't have it in them.
Delvin Breaux, for the record, 27 years old. He'll be 28 next October, just so we can clear that up.
Okay, so 27, which is still,
the point still remains, right.
One year. It's
yes.
Whereas your average NFL draft pick is what, 21, 22 years old? That's a big difference. You're talking an entire few years of starting.
Exactly. They usually hit their prime third year, so they're usually right around the 24-year, 25-year mark when they're hitting their prime, and Delvin Breaux is 2 years past that. And when you consider the injuries, you have to factor that in as well. So the point still remains. Everything you said is definitely on point with that. So not to take away from any of that, but just want to clear that up for those screaming at their radios or whatever you're listening to right now. That yes, we understand he's 27. Doesn't change the idea that corner is definitely a need position for the Saints, especially because if Delvin Breaux is your best corner, who else you got? You can't tell me.
I got something that I know is going to make you giggle a little bit, so I got to throw this out there. Guess who got named a Pro Bowl alternate?
Cam Jordan.
No, I wish it was a Saints player. We're getting snubbed. Joe Hayden has been selected as a Pro Bowl alternate.
Are you kidding me?
That's why I get so frustrated with this process. That's why fans and stuff should not have a vote. No offense to fans. I'm a fan. But Joe Hayden is not playing at an elite level at the corner position. There's no reason he should be near the Pro Bowl. No offense to you, Joe Hayden. He's not even the best corner on their team right now, yet on name alone, he is now a Pro Bowl alternate.
Which is why I'm glad you brought that up. Respect for the fans, yes. We're all fans. You and I got into this section of sports media to kind of be the voice of reason amongst fans. But we're all fans. Jeff Duncan, if you follow him, you can love him or hate him, but he is just an outrageous fan of the Louisville Cardinals. That's his alma mater. He goes for it. You listen to ESPN, the big wigs, over on national media. Mike Greenberg makes no bones about that. He's a Jets fan. So we're all fans. That's why we got into this. That's why we talk about it. That's why we do that confessional every Tuesday. The idea of it is that you can be a fan and also be realistic. And sometimes fans lose the realism involved in it. You go for the big name every single time. That's why most of you were so excited when the Saints were going after James Laurinaitis. You basically, were ready to, form a mob and attack anyone who ever said maybe Laurinaitis isn't the best guy to go with. There's a reason why the Rams are letting go a player who has been so beneficial to them. But you saw the name James Laurinaitis. You see the name Joe Hayden. Hell, there was even Vernon Davis. Vernon Davis has done absolutely nothing this season, but you heard his name was available, and what'd you do? You wanted him, didn't you? Saints fans especially. Please stop this. Stop the nonsense. One man's trash is not always another man's treasure. Please get a grip on this. Because there's a reason why teams are letting other guys go. We're not talking about maybe like an A.J. Klein for the Carolina Panthers, who's maybe 24, 25 years old and just never going to get his chance to truly be a star because he just happens to be playing behind one of the best linebackers in football in Luke Kuechly. That's a different story. We're not talking about somebody who's played 8, 9 years in the NFL and all of a sudden now his team doesn't want him and you think, you know what, maybe the Saints should go after him. No, they shouldn't. That time has passed.
Every now and then you're going to find somebody who breaks that rule. But more often than not, you're not going to find the rule.
Exactly. Ben Watson is the exception and not the rule. Quit thinking the Saints are going to find lightning in the bottle like they did with Darren Sharper. They're not going to find that all the time. And forgive the pun with lightning in the bottle, because that's probably not the best way to go with that one. But I've already said it, so I can't take it back. The idea of it all is that the Saints will very rarely find a guy like Darren Sharper, who's kind of a veteran presence, and that's all you need to get you over the hump. You guys are counting on these people to be Darren Sharper 2.0, except without all of the issues, because it's happened once for you. Mm-hmm. But if you're a Saints fan past, beyond 2006, you already understand the history of this. To Bucky Jones, Kevin Caseforhorn, Josh and Daniel Bullock. I mean, you understand the nature of the beast when it comes to the Saints at safety. It hasn't been good history. So don't get excited because you had one Darren Sharper. Because when you do, you forget about all the other times, like you guys were excited that Champ Bailey was signed. You know who wasn't excited? This guy. I'm pretty sure Rev wasn't on that bandwagon either, because you understand going in. There's a reason why the Super Bowl champ, or at that time one of the elite defenses, told Champ Bailey he can walk. Be mindful of that when you see these big names become available.
Let me throw this out there. I got a I'm gonna send Barry a message real quick to see if he's just running late. But I want to throw this out there to even prove even further your point that there aren't very many exceptions to the rule. I got to talk about the pastor. Ben Watson, it's not like he, just came out of nowhere and didn't have a good year and he just put up stats for the Saints. People tend to forget that he was on a New England Patriots team that had Randy Moss, players like that. So he wasn't getting a ton of targets except in the red zone where he had, 6 touchdowns in 2007, 4 touchdowns in 2005. And he would put up 600-yard seasons, 400-yard seasons, which in a Patriots offense, before they had Gronk, before they had Hernandez, they had receivers. They had Deion Branch and Randy Moss, who lit it up with Tom Brady. So the guys always had the talent. He just didn't have the opportunity to produce. And then he went to Cleveland, which we all know is where players go to die, before he was able to get snagged by New Orleans and start putting up great numbers only after Jimmy left. And then you finally saw, 10 years into his career, him put up a potential season, which you expected him to do coming out. And those are very rare finds. And I love Ben Watson. Wish we would have kept him. But that's a very rare find. More often than not, you're getting guys like Bailey or Laurinaitis who, while great players in their prime, are simply past it and don't have much left in the tank. It's these guys who are low mileage at that same age who you can expect to produce. That's why I believe Ingram, he's in his 6th season. Should he leave this year or the year after, well, that's a very long time, 7 or 8 seasons in the NFL for a running back. He's very low miles. He doesn't have a ton of carries. He's never hit a 300-carry season. So you don't expect him to just fall off. He still has a few more years in him, you would think, because of the low mileage argument. Ben Watson was the same way. I mean, he only had one season before the Saints where he got targeted at least 100 times. One season Ben Watson had that, and then he had that in 2015 with New Orleans. So he's not even the exception to the rule. He's outside the rule, to prove your point, Brian.
Definitely, man. And it just goes to show that you can't always have it the way you want it. I see a lot of fans saying, trade this guy, get rid of that guy, bring in this. Here's the idea of it, and I want to make sure I hammer this home for fans, and it's not that this is an attack on you guys. It's just that I want you to kind of be able to think about it from a wider perspective. And it's the idea that if a guy is so awful, take, for instance, Brandon Browner. We all wanted to get rid of Brandon Browner. But a lot of fans were like, let's just trade Browner. Here's the idea. If a guy is that awful, and you can see it, what makes you think another NFL team wants that guy? Just because you want to get rid of a guy does not mean another NFL team wants him. And that's the problem with fans. Every time you get mad, you want to clean house and get rid of everybody. But here's the problem.
Well,
not everybody wants what you have.
Look, that's just the plague of everybody my age and younger growing up with Madden and 2K. We think that we've all become armchair GMs and then we can run NFL teams.
Everybody, clean house, fire this guy, get rid of that guy. Let's trade Brown. Here's the craziest thing the scenarios that they'll come up with. You can have a guy like, let's say, one of the better receivers, Antonio Brown. Let's trade Brown for Antonio Brown. What the heck would make you think Pittsburgh ever make that trade? Well, they want to get it. They need a corner. Yeah, they need a corner, but they're not going to get rid of their best wide receiver, one of the most lethal weapons in NFL, for a guy you don't want.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if we throw in a second-round pick, they take him. Pittsburgh would laugh you off the phone. Is what would happen. But,
well,
I mean, it's that crazy.
Well, we got our guest Barry with us. How you doing, Barry?
I'm doing fine, gentlemen. How about yourself? I apologize for running a little late. Some family matters here at the house, and that's been squared away.
No worries.
So I'm glad to join y'all tonight. Look, I used to be Deuce's former partner, man, but it sounds like you got a much, much better partner now with Bryan than you ever had in me. So I congratulate you both on such a great show. Just a few minutes I've been listening. And, look, man, the Saints fan base is not very realistic. That a Brandon Browner for an Antonio Brown trade is a scenario that is pretty much common within the Saints fan base. Look, I love Saints fans. I grew up as one, obviously, and as you guys did too. But sometimes they need a reality check. I say that with all the love and care that I can possibly give covering this team every single day. But believe me, growing up as a Saints fan, I've heard some pretty crazy stuff, and none more crazier than I've heard this year. Granted, Deuce will probably verify this, that I may perpetuate some of that stuff with some of the things that I write. But I can assure you, if I put something out there, it's something that is legitimate, whether you agree with it or not. I threw a few scenarios with Brandin Cooks, a possible trade with him in the off season. Should that come to fruition? I seriously doubt it will. But I threw it out there because a lot of fans were upset and wanted to see him traded. So I threw out the scenarios of how such a trade would go down if it were to happen. But realistically, nobody's going to. I mean, what you would want to get in return for him, you're not going to get really. You might get a second rounder. You might get a team willing to bite on a first rounder. A late first rounder. Depending on what team it is. I threw a scenario out there, and I even mentioned in the scenario, this is a long shot, and I stressed the word if this were to happen. And then, of course, it was a trade with the 49ers, which if you're the San Francisco 49ers, you're not giving the Saints your number 2 overall pick for Brandin Cooks. As much as the Saints fan would love to see that happen, it's not going to happen. So, but that's just the way it goes. I would think.
Something like that you would have to hope happens during a bidding war. If it's one of those one-on-one, you're just talking to a team and they need something, you're not going to get that. But if you had, the Cleveland Browns, 49ers, and Jaguars call, then that's the scenario where somebody throws up a second-round pick just so that they can get it. Because Cooks is, a dynamic player. I mean, there are plenty of teams who would like to have a Cooks, but it gets unrealistic with some of these fans who just think that you can throw out Cooks and then people are going to throw you the best player on their team. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Not going to happen. I know the most valid one I believe I had was Tennessee Titans, who have 2 picks in the first round, and I believe I said that possibly they would be a team that would bite just because they could send that second of 2 picks, which I think currently they'd be at 15 or 16, and a legitimate idea that maybe they would bite because certainly they'd love to put a Brandin Cooks with Marcus Mariota, who's developing into one of the fine young quarterbacks in the league in Tennessee. Give Mike Mularkey credit. He's got that team contending for an AFC South title. So you land a player like Brandin Cooks, you put him in that offense with DeMarco Murray and Delaney Walker. I mean, yeah, that would be pretty dynamic. So that would be a team that I would see if the Saints were to go that route. I seriously doubt they'll go that route. I was just throwing the idea out there because a lot of fans are talking about it. And, I got some heat just earlier today about the type of articles or style of writing that I have. I know some of it borders on National Enquirer-like topics, but I only enjoy it because, this is the time this team is not going to the playoffs. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what scenarios you want to throw out there, and I threw them out there again